Hi, you guys. I'm going to tell you a long dream that has at least two parts to it. I dreamt it at the same time, but it kind of has like two scenes in it. But first, I just want to tell you that when you're interpreting dreams, and I said this in an earlier video, but the title, it is very important, and it's kind of charting the climax of the dream. And sometimes just as soon as you write a title, you should write at least two. Sometimes when you write the title, that's the dream, and that will tell you what the dream means right there. And then there's the emotion, the main action in the dream, and the setting. Setting is what you're doing like the day before in your dream, what in your life that may be currently happening, probably is currently happening, that has that same emotion and that same action or similar in it. So anyway, the dream. I dreamt that I was like 15 years old, and I was in some living room at a slumber party. There was kids all over the place, and there was this woman whose real life name is Denise Frohog, and I was sitting on this couch beside Denise Frohog, and I was older than most of the kids. I think Levin was the oldest besides me, and we were sitting there, and I forget why, but this boy came up to me, and he hawked up spit and phlegm all over me, and it was really gross, and I was so disgusted and mad, and I called him a shit for brain. And I don't usually swear, but I write X-rated videos every once in a while about dreams, because some dreams are X-rated despite what you're like in real life. So anyhow, I said that, and I kind of thought that Denise was going to freak out at me or like reprimand me in some way, but she never. And I was sitting there waiting, and I thought, oh, well, maybe she just feels really sorry for me. And this boy, after a few minutes, he was like, okay, oh, I'm sorry for that. And I think he really meant it. But I was like, I don't want to forgive him. And I was like, yeah, thanks. But I didn't really say it in a nice way, like I actually did forgive him or intended to forgive him. And so then parents started showing up. I didn't see them, but they started showing up. They were outside the house to pick up their kids. So kids were leaving this house. And just about everybody was gone, and I remember thinking, I hope John hurries up and gets here. He's supposed to be picking me up. So John is who I'm married to in real life, so it was weird that I was 15 and I was married to John, who was I just knew in my dream he's like the age he is now, which is 36. And it's funny, I kind of like morphed into my normal age self, which is 36, in the dream at that point. So I went outside waiting for John. And when he drove up, I was kind of mad at him for being late, but I didn't get in the vehicle right then, and he didn't drive away either. And I didn't get in the vehicle with him, and I think my kids were with, two of my kids anyway, my 15-year-old and 13-year-old were with him. So I went onto the lawn at this place, and it kind of looked like the lawn in a city. And I don't live in real life, I don't live in a city, I live on a farm. And the place closest to me is a town, but still, it looked like a city, a yard in a city. When I went onto the grass, it was summertime, which it definitely isn't here right now in real life. And there were lots of people, and some of them were the ones waiting for their parents, and some were sitting in chairs, some were sitting on the lawn. And there was this guy whose name in real life is Danny Hardy, and his wife in real life is Tanya Hardy. And in real life they have two kids, but the two kids weren't there, they didn't exist. And Danny in real life was my best friend in high school, and he was older than me, and long story, but we had a real life, not falling out really, but we just kind of lost contact, and he was kind of hurt in the process. And so anyway, and I apologized in real life about 6 years ago to his wife and to him. Well, I didn't apologize to her, but I apologized through her to him. And I made clear that I wasn't hitting on her husband, because I wasn't. So anyway, I saw Danny, and somehow I knew in the stream that it was like at the point where we'd had our separation, falling out kind of thing. And so it was after that, and somehow I knew that him and Tanya were barren. They didn't have any children and they couldn't have children, but they wanted to. And anyhow, they had just adopted a baby, and it was a young baby. So this brand new baby, infant, in its blanket, was all wrapped up. And I remember once I saw this baby, I started crying, and I was so happy for them. And I didn't expect that for myself, and I don't think they expected it. And Danny looked really touched that I was so touched by the fact that he had a baby. And so Danny told me that the baby's name, was Colton Hardy. He said the middle name too, but I didn't really, in the dream even, I didn't really hear what it was. I didn't catch it. And so anyway, he said, do you want to hold the baby? And he kind of held out the baby to me. And I was like, in the middle of crying, yes, I do. Which in real life is kind of odd because I'm not a mean person, but I don't like holding babies all that much. Like not little babies very much anyway. And like not babies that are 2 months old or younger. And even in the dream, I was kind of like, this isn't me, and it's odd that I want to do this because I really did want to do it. So I took the baby and I looked down at the baby. I walked away from Danny and them a little bit, from everyone, and I looked down at the baby, and the baby was, you know, those things that are like food that's molded into things. Well, this baby looked very real, but it was a hot dog. And so this wiener, it had a baby-sized head, and it was all carved like a baby. It looked like a baby. And his body, I think it looked like a baby's body, but it was like way smaller than the head of a baby would be in real life, like in proportion to his body. And so I was kind of like, this is weird. But Danny and Tanya, I knew, were really happy. So I was holding this baby, and all of a sudden my pastor in real life, Pastor Dan, he came along, Dan Geese, and he asked for the baby. And I kind of like looked like, I don't know if I should give this baby to you. Not because I think something's wrong with him, but it was my deal to hold this baby. But I passed it to him, or he actually kind of just took it. And so I didn't have the baby anymore, and I saw Danny and Tanya kind of looking in my direction, or walking in my direction a little bit, mingling with people, and they saw that I didn't have the baby, and I felt really guilty. But they weren't like thinking, oh, Blair lost the baby or killed the baby, but I still felt guilty because I shouldn't have. It wasn't up to me to give somebody else permission to hold the baby. And I was gonna get the baby back. I got the baby back, and I started walking towards them, and I gave them the baby. And while I was kind of still close enough to them to see them holding the baby, I saw that the head was off the baby, and it was just like a wiener, like a regular uncooked wiener that you would see. And like the top of it was broken off, like if you cut out the top of a wiener and it was missing 2 centimeters of a wiener of the top, that was kind of like what it was. So it was kind of cut on the top, like that's where the head had been, but it was now gone. And somehow I knew that wiener would either regrow his head, or more likely I just knew that somehow it could be repaired and there would be a new wiener baby. And I was happy about that for them, but at the same time I saw them looking down at the baby, and it maybe even kind of whispering between them like, oh, look at the baby's missing his head. We kind of expected that something would go wrong, and they knew that the baby would regrow his head and they'd have their baby again. And that's when I started realizing it was actually kind of sad and pathetic that was their baby. That it was just like, it's not sad and pathetic that you can't have a baby, definitely, but get a real baby. And I felt that, but I also felt really bad, but a little relieved. And some of the responsibility of the possible mistake that wasn't really my fault, but was kind of my fault, of the baby losing his head, was mine. And I was happy, but they looked sad. So comment down below your interpretation, and I'm not telling you have to have the title, emotion, action, setting, possible, and include symbols sometimes, because symbols can really, well, okay, this is a good symbol, I think, because there was a baby that was made out of a wiener in the dream, and I think that's a symbol of some sort. Sometimes we just go, okay, that maybe doesn't have significance of things in a dream, but I kind of almost, for me, I kind of think that it does. So you might want to include symbols too, but comment whatever you like, or if you just know this interpretation, or you pray and God tells you this interpretation that may not be the same as everybody else's interpretation, but really cool if it is, then comment that down below, and please subscribe to this channel for more dream interpretations and sometimes more tips, or for you to be able to interpret my dreams. Sometimes I'll interpret them as well, but I want to see your interpretations, and for you to be able to also see other people's interpretations, to see what their train of thought is, and maybe it'll help you in the future kind of get ideas about how you should interpret dreams. And also there is a bell symbol on the YouTube channel, and if you click on that bell symbol, it'll turn from, I believe, red to gray. That means you'll get notifications about all of the new dream journey videos. So talk to you later.